Hello, and welcome to Ask an Expert. My name's Tom. I'm the Southwest lead for the Ministry of Eco Education, and I'm joined today by Dr. Beth Lane from AI in Schools. So, Beth, would you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So, yeah, I'm Beth and I live up in York in the north of England, and this is where I grew up. I've had quite an interesting journey through childhood and into my professional career. So, I'll start at the beginning. I grew up in very rural North Yorkshire. There wasn't even a proper bus service where I grew up, and I had very little access to technology. I was raised by a really supportive family, but I was always interested in tech from the very beginning. But through school, kind of didn't really find my niche because I didn't have computer science lessons. So I was often told I was a square peg in a round hole, and even though I knew what my passion was, it was really difficult to sort of to capture that at that time. So actually, I did my GCSEs, did relatively well, but then I started A levels and was pushed into business studies, which commonly people who are interested in tech are, and I don't really know why. And I ended up dropping out actually quite early on in my A levels. So I was working on the checkouts at Sainsbury's with very little direction, and I remember quite clearly sort of one of the most vivid memories from that time I have is a couple coming through the checkout, and the husband asked, "When are you finishing work today?" And the wife just turned around and said, "We should have tried harder in school," and that really lit something in me. And very soon after that, my mum in the local newspaper saw an apprenticeship advertised at Nestle. We've got a really big Nestle factory here in York, and we've got a product technology centre where all the new chocolate bars are developed. And I applied for an IT apprenticeship, a level three apprenticeship at Nestle. And out of the 400 or so candidates who went for the job, I actually got it, which I was thrilled by. And so now I advocate for apprenticeships. It was an absolutely life-changing experience. I worked with phenomenal people, went to college one day a week, completed the course far quicker than the time I had allocated, and then was hired as a full-time IT systems analyst. Before my friends had even finished their A levels, and the best part about it is that I got paid. So they doubled my salary to stay. And I had the most amazing couple of years working at Nestle, and that was my springboard opportunity. And I think that apprenticeships are now even better than they were back then. So that was quite a few years ago. So I then decided that I would go to university. I made that decision. It was really nice as a young person to actually have that autonomy as well to make that decision. Studied abroad in the US, came back and became a computer science teacher because I wanted to give young people, specifically girls, but all young people, access to the kind of education I felt I hadn't benefited from myself. So I moved down to the University of Southampton, did my teacher training, and then worked in and around in schools in London for just over 10 years. And that was a fantastic experience. But in 2018, I decided to do a master's in software engineering just for myself. And while I was doing that, I met a professor of AI, and it was where I really had my sort of second pivotal moment in my career after my apprenticeship, because I realized this is exactly what I want to be working on to help people to use this technology for good. And so the researcher who I met was working with a British Heart Foundation grant to be able to write algorithms in Python code. Some of the young people watching this might be already learning Python to help assist cardiologists in the diagnosis of heart disease. And so I successfully got a scholarship for my PhD, and I studied that over 3 years, writing Python algorithms, as I said, for a fully automated echocardiographic laboratory. So looking at scans, ultrasound scans of the heart, and using deep learning technology, we'll probably come on to that later, to be able to assist the human intelligence. And that's really key. It wasn't to replace humans in that process of diagnosis, it was to assist them and give them extra tools at their disposal to help human beings. So then after that, I was doing my postdoc in Imperial College in London, and based in a hospital. And I realised quite quickly that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to couple my education passion for education and also technical expertise to be able to help young people and teachers to empower them into being the next generation of innovators in this country. And the way that I do that through AI in schools is I deliver AI literacy, so hands-on. This is what AI is. This is what AI isn't. This is how you code algorithms. Go through the whole AI development life cycle, and also sort of upskill teachers in having the skills and confidence to be able to tell young people, okay, this is what AI is all about. This is the environmental impact. This is the ethical impact. Here you go. Here's the knowledge. You do with that what you choose to do. And so that's sort of my journey from start to finish.
Wow, that's inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. We presented together at an event in Somerset, and to for me as someone who doesn't know much about AI at all, it was really helpful. Just the way you really clearly explained what AI is and also what AI isn't. So I just wondered if you would just repeat that for people watching this because I found it really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll take a slight step back as well, to think about how long AI has been around for. So a lot of people say that AI is the future, and in actual fact, AI, in the sense of using a machine to mimic human intelligence, has been a concept for at least 70 years now. And AI is an umbrella term that spans lots of different types of technology. So we can have rule-based systems, just following a set of rules that mimic human intelligence, and data-driven systems. So machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI, they're all subsets of AI. Machine learning is a subset of AI, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and generative AI is a subset of that. And essentially, from machine learning onwards, we're able to benefit from vast quantities of data to input that data into an AI system that is able to learn features and patterns and then produce a prediction. So some form of decision based on that data. And so in essence, I think the mistake some people make is that they think AI can think, and it can't. What it's doing is it's taking an input, it's processing it, looking at patterns and features, and then making a prediction. And when we look at things like large language models, like ChatGPT, like Claude, they are essentially just predicting the next word in a sequence, for example. So a bit like a really fancy autocomplete. They're just making a prediction. And so we are the ones with intelligence, and artificial intelligence, artificial, is mimicking that, but it can make mistakes as well. So it's very good at doing things really quickly and analyzing lots of information, but it is also limited and flawed.
Mm, interesting. Thank you. Um, Thinking from the sort of Ministry of Eco Education and the environmental point of view, AI is in the spotlight because of the data centers, the energy they use, the amount of
Yeah.
water, and all that sort of thing. I'm wondering how teachers could sort of navigate students asking about that. What is the current state, and how could we prepare teachers for the questions they're quite rightly going to be asked by students about the environmental impact of AI?
Yeah, it's a really important issue. It's one that I'm really passionate about as well. I'm passionate about it because yes, the environmental impact of AI is it's immense, but also in saying what are the opportunities and comparing that to other industries, for example. So I think with regard to teachers, it all comes down to education. So we need to educate ourselves to be able to disseminate that to our students and then say to them, as I mentioned before, you've now got the power of this education and you can make decisions yourself. You should be empowered by that. For example, if you know the environmental impact of ChatGPT, you can decide not to use it and use your human brain instead, or ask a parent, or ask a friend to help you. So if we think about the data centers that are used, there are two key phases really with any AI tool. If we just use one example, because there are lots of different types of AI, large language models, ChatGPT just being one of them. But if we use that as an example moving forward, it might make the explanations easier. So when ChatGPT is trained on vast quantities of data from the World Wide Web, for example, that's the training or the learning process. So that's done in cycles, iterative cycles of learning, and so that uses a lot of water to cool the super powerful computers, the servers down in data centers, and it also uses a lot of electricity. So the next stage is inference, and the inference is the use of the tool. And that's when we might go online, go to ChatGPT and give it a prompt and get a response. And that also has an environmental cost, so that the two are separate but also related. In addition to that, the chips that are used to train the super powerful computers, the servers, they also require quite a lot of resources to be able to make them as well. So there are sort of subsidiary environmental impacts from the training and then the use, the inference of AI. But I think it's quite important to relate this as a teacher to examples that young people can relate to. So having, comparisons, for example. So I do quite a lot of research into sort of what's the current state of play in the environmental impact of AI, and things are changing so rapidly, and advancements in helping to improve the energy efficiency and the water cooling systems are sort of changing all the time. But I was going to ask you a question actually. So I've asked a lot of people this question and no one's ever got it right. So it is a very difficult question to answer, but
Okay.
I've got the sort of top five industries consuming water, okay, globally. And AI data centers are in there, okay, but they're not number one and they're not number two either. So sort of annual water consumption, what do you think the biggest industry is in terms of using water that cannot be reused afterwards?
I'm going to say clothing, fashion,
Okay, that's a good one, but it's not on the top five.
not on the top five. Okay.
Yeah.
Nuclear power?
No, another good
No.
one, but it's not. It's not in the
Okay.
top five.
Agriculture?
Oh, we're moving closer. We're definitely moving closer.
Oh gosh. Bigger industry using water. I'm running out of. Well, there's manufacturing, isn't there? But that's really broad. I'm trying to think. Yeah, manufacturing of yeah, all sorts of products.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm stumbling already. That's not very impressive, is it?
No, no, but that's kind of what I expected because it is so difficult. I think everybody
Yeah.
who's watching this right now, if you try and think what it could be, I would love to know if anyone gets it right. Um, it's actually golf courses in the USA.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so there are about 16,000 golf courses in the USA, and they consume around three times the amount of water that data centers do globally. So it puts it into perspective. Now, I can't remember the exact figure, but in 2022, it was far less in terms of the AI consumption. So it is, increasing exponentially. However, and we can talk about it maybe in a moment, but that is that there are innovations in that field, sort of helping to reduce the water consumption for data centers. But the second on in the top five is lawn irrigation systems in the USA. Um, and then we have data centers, which is also going to be things like cloud-based systems as well. So cloud storage systems, for example. Then number four on the list is Google searches.
Okay.
And then number five is Bitcoin mining. Um, and
Yeah.
obviously, this is a moving thing because obviously, as technology changes, the impact changes as well. But yeah, when I've been doing my research, that's the top five. Um,
Wow.
so obviously, then the main reason why we can't reuse water in data centers is it's because the water evaporates. There is evaporative systems at the moment, and looking to improve that. Microsoft are now using, and Microsoft's just one organization, there are lots of organizations looking to improve the water consumption, but they're using sort of circular water cooling systems with coolant rather than using water as well. So that circular system is constantly moving, and that's looking quite positive, I believe. So there are lots of moves in the right direction with all sorts of different systems rather than sort of the evaporative water systems in data centers. So I don't have any stats on what they're expecting that to look like in the next year or 5 years or 10 years, but I'm hopeful that it's going to have quite a big impact. Obviously, then tech companies, data center owners are going to have to invest financially in new systems, which I hope won't be a barrier to them, but it could be a barrier to adopting that new
Mm.
technology.
I mean, you'd imagine in terms of future proofing, to reduce your water consumption is a wise thing to do.
Yeah.
But it depends if there's, I guess, that mentality. Is it make a quick fast buck now,
Yeah.
or think about 20 years time? So that's
Yeah.
that's so you mentioned Microsoft. I mean, are there any other examples of sort of best practice, I guess, of companies that are trying to mitigate this rather than just going sort of hell for leather to just sort of make the best out of it?
I think all of the large tech companies are trying to. I think they're investigating different methods for energy saving. So I know that the organizations like Nvidia who make chips, they're making them more efficient. So the more efficient they are, then the less energy consumption they're going to require, for example. So I know that lots of organizations are working in that field, but I think one of the most important roles is government can play in this, and actually having policies that are part of the wider environmental policies for those countries, or for example for the EU, to be able to say to organizations, this is really important and you have to be doing this. Because I think, again, like we've just mentioned, financially, if it's not a priority for the organization, they're not going to be inclined to implement new systems that are going to be better for the environment. But also, I think some of these policies, they're very wise in the sense that they implement measures to offset the sort of the emissions and the electricity consumption, the water consumption, so having green data centers as well, renewable energy sources, those kind of things. I think they're really, really important. But I think that generally in that field, there's a lot of work being done. And I think as well, like mapping that to future careers for young people is really important. One of the things that I find when I'm going around different schools and colleges and talking to teachers and talking to students is there's a lot of career anxiety about, is AI going to come along and take over our jobs? And I think the most important thing is to first and foremost remember, as I said before, AI is an assistive technology. So all the work that I was doing in cardiovascular medicine is to assist the human cardiologist, never to replace them. But also that there are new industries opening up. So even if you're not a programmer and that doesn't interest you at all, there are some really exciting, interesting jobs in AI and technology that are opening up and emerging. So things like looking at the environmental impact and advising organisations on that, spearheading the engineering of new techniques that don't require you to be a programmer. Also, the legal and ethical
Mm.
aspects too. I think that's really, really important. Um, yeah,
Mm.
I hope
That's
that
really
answers that
interesting. Yeah,
question.
yeah. And thinking sort of for the future as well. I mean, does AI have the potential to help with the climate crisis and answer some of the big questions? I mean, that's one of our sort of inquiries in the Ministry of Eco Education is trying to think, could AI solve? Well, that's a bit of a blanket, but assist. And are there sort of, are there initiatives to work on that sort of level?
Yeah. So Definitely. I think when I was talking about the role that government can play, there are initiatives at government level to be able to make recommendations about assessing the impact that AI has. I think a lot of organisations are saying, right, we need to jump on this bandwagon. And like I said earlier, there are different types of AI. So large language models are just one of them. But are we actually having a positive impact with this technology, or is it just adding to workload? Is it adding to processes that we're not really seeing any benefit from? So assessing that. But also, when I said earlier that AI is trained on data and it can process huge quantities of data, looking for patterns and making predictions. It can analyze trends, environmental trends, for example, that will help us to make more informed or better informed decisions when modeling data and looking at how can we improve systems and processes. So I think that there are huge opportunities out there. Probably not when we look at things like large language models, they're probably not typically being used in the inference process for, how can we better become, more energy efficient. But if we're looking at other kinds of AI and modeling systems that can make predictions for the environment and better use of technology, I think there's huge scope and huge opportunity there.
Mm, that's good to know. Um, and thinking about young people and their agency, I mean, what sort of just to sort of round this up, what kind of nuggets would you give to children, to students to kind of support their sort of independence and their agency and their kind of ability to navigate using AI because they will be, and some sort of advice for them and their future lives.
Yeah, so I would say being educated is key. We've always said knowledge is power. All right. So if you hear a statistic or you hear someone scaremongering, the best thing to do is to go out and seek the answers, facts and figures, look at research. The benefit of having the World Wide Web now at our fingertips is that young people do have access to more than we ever have. We made mistakes when social media came about, and that was when I was in my late teenage years. And we saw people making mistakes because they didn't understand how the technology works. And we still see that now. So young people today have a huge opportunity to ensure that they have the knowledge to empower them to make the right decisions. So if you know that there's a huge environmental cost to using ChatGPT, then look for alternatives, for example. If you feel like you've got some career anxiety around the area that you would like to go into, the industry you would like to go into, do some research, speak to people, and look online for resources that are out there. Now, just a couple of things in that respect as well. I mentioned Google is the fourth contributor, or the fourth industry, sort of wasting water, using water. Now, I'm not talking about the AI-enabled Google search here. I'm talking about a standard Google search. You can use 10 Google searches for one query on ChatGPT in terms of electricity and water consumption. So if we don't have the AI enabled Google, 10 searches is roughly the same energy and water consumption. And then also, if you generate an image using AI, this is a sort of generalization, but if you use an image generator, that's about the same electricity as charging one smartphone. So I think speaking to young people today, I find fascinating that they are really inquisitive about this topic. They'll be in lessons and they need to design a logo for a project that they're working on. A lot of them might just jump to designing that on ChatGPT or another image generator. But actually, going back to basics and hand drawing that logo is really nice, and it's still a skill that we need to have as well. So just having that knowledge and looking for those, okay, if I don't generate that image, then I'm saving one mobile phone's worth of energy, for example.
Mm.
So it's being inquisitive, and maybe even educating their teachers as well and feeling empowered to do that.
Brilliant. Yeah. And really tangible. I love the way that you give these sort of simple, I can understand that. I can get my head around that. That really makes sense. Yeah.
Great.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And obviously if teachers watching this want to, get in contact with you, it's AI in schools. If you yeah. Put that into
Yeah,
Google, but only
yeah,
once.
yeah. Only put it in a not an AI enabled search
Not
as
an
well.
AI enabled. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Uh, yeah. AI in schools, .co.uk, or just search me, Dr.
Yeah,
Beth Lane, and it should come up.
fantastic. Beth, that was really, really interesting and a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed.
Thanks for having me.